So first of all, George, congrats on making it to the final of the Octagon Challenge series. Before we talk about the event coming up in Manchester, I want to go back to your career before this whole thing
Mhm.
kicked off, because a lot of people had their eye on you as an exciting guy to watch in the amateur ranks coming through. I'm sure that whatever you had decided to do for your first steps as a pro would have gathered some interest. But where were you kind of at with turning pro and your plans for the future before Octagon came into the picture?
Yeah, so I did the World in February this year, and then was like, there's nothing else for me to really do in terms of fighting for amateur. Obviously, I would like to have got the gold, but I didn't really want to wait another year of just not fighting. Um, and then I have to pay another 2 grand just to do the same thing. So it was like I had 17 amateur fights. So I was like, me and my team was like, it's probably time to make the jump to pro now, which is it was probably right. um, and then we tried to get matched on. I tried to get matched on some of the local shows like Almighty and that, and I had so many guys just tear me down, as you could imagine. Like just honestly, it was ridiculous. And then Liam Moss, I can't remember who got the message, but they said got messaged about doing Octagon Challenge. So I was like, at first I was a bit because like I thought so I read the message wrong. I thought I had to pay to do it, but then I read it wrong and just I got paid to do it. As soon as I found that, I was like, "Yeah, sign me up." Where do I sign the paper? Um, so yeah, I wanted to like do a couple of regional ones, but then like an opportunity like this arose where I was getting 2 fights anyway on the show, and then the final in November. So it's like in my eyes, well when I signed up for it, I was already getting to the final. Obviously, most people will have been like that anyway, but so like it's 3 fights within. You've got in my eyes again, I was guaranteed 3 fights, so it was good for me in that sense.
Yeah, it makes it easy if you're struggling to get fights as an amateur to go into a reality show where it isn't determined like who you're going to fight. It's just how the tournament plays out. It's like, well, you've skipped that
Exactly,
whole process like straight off the bat. Um,
exactly.
Before we talk again about this fight specifically, your time on the show. Interesting because when you have a reality show like this, a lot of the TV time and the drama and stuff is going to come from the loudest characters in the house, right?
Hmm.
And you certainly are not that, but I think that provided a an incredible contrast, right, for people to watch, and
Hmm.
you need different characters, right, to be around each
100%.
other in order for it to be interesting. But how was that for you as around a bunch of guys that are very, very different to you, as we will talk more about in a minute.
Yeah, so obviously Irish are known for being quite loud anyway, aren't they? And like you saw me, Jake, and Bo were like we were just more like quiet, kept ourselves to ourselves for the most show. Hassan was a bit more vocal, but that's Hassan for you. But no, I didn't mind it. Too fair, like to be fair, for the most, obviously when they were filming and that, yeah, there was a lot more banter and that. But like for the most part, we just like me, Jake, and Bo kept ourselves to ourselves. Did us. Hassan did him. Obviously, Hassan would chill with us sometimes. Then he'd be with Dennis arguing usually. But the Irish, like you see it on the show, the Irish are loud. That's no secret. But I didn't mind it.
I think that in a really great way in terms of the way that the show was put together. Um, with the way that you are as a fighter, it felt very fitting to have a guy like Brad Pickett. Again, you talk about the Irish and the reputation for being loud and these bright characters and stuff. And Brad is always, not the loudest guy in the room, but
Yeah,
the that you can see that the it's not because he lacks confidence, it's just because that's who he is like that. And so having Brad there, I feel like it just felt like a perfect figure for you in order to have like a someone to look up to in the tournament, but also someone who been there, done it, and
yeah,
has walked that path,
100%. Yeah, Brad was ace. Like again, very I'm very similar to Brad. You know the way I'm not like I keep myself to myself. You know I don't have to be angry to fight. You know I'm not I'm not that type of guy. I enjoy fighting. It's not like something I have to be aggressive for, or you know I have to hate what I'm fighting in front of me. Um, so like me and Brad have a lot of the same. You know like likes so like we both love Star Wars, both collect Lego, both love MMA. So we have a lot of similarities, you know, in that sense. And like you say, great mentor to have on with me on the show.
I completely forgot that Brad himself is a Lego collector. I remember speaking
Yeah,
to him
yeah.
about that years ago. I completely forgot that it's a match made in heaven then, you being on his team.
100%.
Of course, yeah.
100%.
Um we of course have to talk about your opponent in the final, Denis Frimpong. Before we talk about the fight itself, what were your kind of impressions of Denis in the series? Because I know that no one was safe from Denis trying to get into their heads. But obviously, since the final has been confirmed and stuff like that, it's escalated a lot. But before we got to that point where you guys were going to be fighting in the final, what was your kind of the image that you got of Denis from just being around him?
So, like, for the most part, it was obviously like, quite, obviously, him and Hassan had to fight. That was like the fair, it had, you know, for the way it was hyped and that. But like in the same time, he wasn't just like trying to get in Hassan's head. He was trying to get in everyone's head because like he obviously he'll have seen everyone in there as an opponent, which you know everyone in theory was to a certain degree. He won't obviously he was only doing it to the English, obviously, but like I didn't mind him for like the most, but like I actually had some good conversation with him. Like he actually does like anime as well. He's got an anime tattoo so I know he's taking the mick at me for liking Lego and anime, but he also likes anime, which is I know he won't be too pleased me telling people that, but he does, and I had like conversations with him about like Naruto and Bleach and that. Cause at the time of the show, I just started watching Bleach, and he was telling me how great it was. And I was like, yeah, like I'm like I'm still getting through it now. It's quite a big series, but but yeah, and like I said, I didn't really mind him.
How has that changed? Has your opinion of Denis changed since the fight has been put together, or is it just because you've experienced it firsthand, up close and personal? You know that you kind of knew what to expect and how he would probably approach this fight.
Yeah, I 100% I lived with him for like 3 weeks, you know, a month. Like yeah, like it's not gonna get much worse than that. Oh, pardon me, sorry. Um, yeah, like I said, lived with him for 3 weeks. Not even lived with him, you know, was in the because obviously we had the same changing room in the well, not the same changing room. We have our change rooms were next to each other. So like when you was in the gym, he was with the Irish team as well. So like you was constantly with your opposing team. So like there was no real like getting away from him. Um, so I knew exactly what you know, especially the last couple of weeks, it'd be like it increased, you know, the amount of trash talking he did, just because that's the way he knows he's gonna win. He knows he can only win if he gets into my head, which ain't gonna happen.
When it comes to stuff like that, I think it's an interesting thing because, like I said, you guys, you two are such polarizing people.
Yeah,
Like, couldn't be more on the opposite ends of the scales. And like you said, with Denis being a trash talking guy that wants to get into people's heads, and his his take will definitely be that because you don't necessarily bite back, that is him getting in your head.
winning. Hmm.
When it comes to the fight itself, how I would imagine you've never had an opponent do this like level of trash talking
No,
before.
100% not. 100% not.
Is there
No,
has
I've
there
never
ever
had.
been anything close?
No,
No,
no, I don't think many people will. To be fair,
no,
no,
that's
it's a
what I
lot in it.
expected. But so it's
100%.
like it's a thing where I think that everyone who has seen one of your fights will go, well, one of his best attributes is that you're composed in there, and like you said, that this is just competition for you. It isn't
Mhm.
anything like you don't go in there emotional, and so I think a lot of people would look at that and go, well, he should be the kind of fighter that won't affect him. But when you haven't dealt with something like that,
100%.
it's a completely different question, right? Because we don't know how people will react, but also you don't know to some extent how you'll react because he hasn't
100%.
just said I'm gonna knock George out and win the final. He's mentioned family and things like that, and that's when for a lot of fans, I think the line gets blurred between selling a fight and bordering on pushing it too far, depending on
Yeah.
where you stand. Like, how has that been?
100%. Like since like I've had time obviously like to deal with it, and like I said on the last episode, I don't know why I actually cried because obviously I've had a long time to deal about my grandma. And I just generally don't know why I cried. It was, I was cutting weight as well at the time, so I'm assuming that played a factor in it. Obviously, I was dehydrating, so my emotions will have been up and down. Um, but no, it just is what it is. Like, yeah, it happened, and I can't really do out about it. And yeah, but like that's when you have to detach, yourself from the shit talking. It's just like, yeah, he's doing that I get it. He's doing it to sell the fight, but in the same time, Khabib with when his dad died, he had to detach himself from all emotion until after the fight, and that's when I can be emotional because I've had like I say since the show finished to deal with all this. So like I say, you just got to detach yourself from all emotion, which I have done. Like I have no feelings towards Dennis really.
I think it just feels from a fan perspective because we only found out about the matchup like a couple of weeks ago.
Weeks
It
ago, yeah,
it suddenly feels like this whirlwind of stuff where it's like like it's happened in such a short
100%.
time frame. But obviously you've had a lot longer to prepare for this
Mhm.
and to let everything sink in and expect what Dennis was going to do because we
Yeah.
all saw it coming. Like I said, you guys being such different characters, I think has played out perfectly for the show
Oh,
and for this
100%.
final. Not just in terms of who you are as people, but the matchup. I think it
Yeah.
is probably the best matchup that could have come from the show as
Well,
well. So
I was saying to the I got did some interviews a while back. And I was saying to them, it's not a fairy tale ending, but it's the best. It's almost like that. You got the best guys off each team fighting each other. It couldn't have been a better match.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Excited for it, mate. I think that fight is going to be fantastic, and of course, huge
Yeah.
implications for the winner going forward in
Mhm.
Octagon. So exciting stuff. It's exciting stuff for you because, like you said, you've gone from struggling to get fights to turn pro to suddenly you
uh,
could have the next few years of your pro career sorted,
with-
like all in
it's
a row.
been it's been a whirlwind of a year.
I bet, I bet. All the best for it, mate,
Thank
and
you,
thank you for your
Kyle.
time on late notice
Thank
because
you, brother.
I get it. It's a nightmare of a week, but
Can
yeah,
be.
appreciate it. All right, nice one, man. Good luck for the
Brother.
fight, and we'll catch you later.
Cheers, bro. Thank you.